thing that always manages to blow my mind is that like, can you even imagine that there is this one piece of textile which is made nowhere else in the world but in India, in one small tiny little village, and they are the only people who are custodians of the know-how of how to make that very textile. So this fact just blows my mind every time.
Hello, guys, and welcome to episode 6 of Sustainability Simplified, your bi monthly dose of how to seamlessly build an action oriented, sustainable, and profitable business. I am your host, Zitin, and today is a super, super, super special episode. Not only because it is the first episode of the new year, that's 2021, but also because I'm in conversation with my very dear friend Malvika, who does some really, really cool stuff with artisans across India through her enterprise, the Indian Craft Hunt. Stay tuned to find out. By the way, this is part one of the series where our focus will be on sustainable livelihood building of artisans in India. Welcome, Malvika. It's a pleasure, as always, to have you. How are you today? And more importantly, how was your recent trip?
Thank you, Zitin. Thank you for the amazing introduction. And it was amazing. The recent trip was really great. And it was in interiors of Maharashtra. So there was hardly any network connectivity, and people didn't wear masks. And but it was safe because they never knew what COVID was in the first place. It was really, really in the interior. So it was a good trip. And I got to learn a lot, and we've developed a few new products. So it'll be interesting to talk about it as we progress in the podcast.
Awesome. So, of course, I've clearly kind of given a very sobered down version of an introduction about you and the Indian Craft Hunt. So, please share a little bit more about yourself and the amazing work that you do at the Indian Craft Hunt.
Sure. So, the Indian Craft Hunt is first and foremost a platform to connect rural India with urban marketplaces. And we try to do this by personally traveling to each village of India. This is at least the dream, that we want to travel to each and every village of India and curate handicrafts from those places and make it available to a larger global audience. So that's essentially what the Indian Craft Hunt does. And I am the founder of the Indian Craft Hunt, Malvika. And this is a very, I actually call it a passion project because I love India and I want to give back to India in some way. And this is the best I feel because this is my passion and something that I can do professionally too. So, yeah.
Right. Awesome. So I, often tell entrepreneurs when I talk to them also that when you are able to kind of mix passion with, what you're professionally doing, that's kind of a good, mix or a good balance because then you're kind of, fully tuned in to what you're doing and you love it. So that's great. I mean, that's amazing. Malvika, tell us a little bit more about your journey. So what really got you interested and motivated and passionate really about this, exciting space?
Right. So it started actually. So I do come from a design background already.
Right.
I studied 4 years of fashion, but what I realized is in most of the Indian colleges, we like for 4 years we do a degree which focuses a lot and takes a lot from Western fashion per se,
Right.
without really paying much attention or paying very less attention to the kind of rich textiles India already produces. And this started right there in the second year of college when I was supposed to go and meet a bunch of Telia Rumal weavers in Andhra Pradesh.
Okay.
And I realized that the module to explore Indian handicrafts is so short in a 4 year degree. It's only like for a month or so.
Right.
And I was like, no, this is this is something that I resonate with so deeply, and I want to incorporate this in my 4 years of degree somehow.
Right.
So, henceforth, whichever project I took, I made sure I involve Indian handlooms and handicrafts in it in some way. So that was somewhere the starting point where I realized that that this country is so blessed with textiles, and we are still looking west. It's high time we look within and see the kind of variety we have in this country. And post which I also did a textile trail after college. This was much later when I started working, and I traveled across two states, that was Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat, and we met artisans. We literally did a textile trail. And I realized there is a huge potential to get these people markets, which we can tap in.
Right.
So somewhere that I think that's obviously there have been many trigger points, but these two incidences are is what I would call a starting point and what got me really interested in taking this up seriously.
Right, right. That's pretty awesome. So, I mean, of course, the Indian handicrafts and handloom space is super exciting, and I've seen that on the Instagram page of the Indian Craft Hunt. And that's also what inspired us to kind of collaborate. Next Mile Co. For all the listeners, by the way, Next Mile Co. has partnered with the Indian Craft Hunt this new year for some really cool customized New Year gifts, for our key stakeholders, which have been appreciated by all of them. So thank you so much for that. On a personal note, what would it be? What would your favorite part be of being in the space of design, handicraft, and handloom? What really excites you the most, Malvika?
So first of all, thank you, Jitin, for giving us that order. It was really kind of you. We could curate some really amazing pieces and put it all together. It's one of our favorite bits too. Gifting is one thing we really enjoy. Personalizing it, making it special for the other person,
Absolutely.
and that's one thing that we enjoy. But one thing that always manages to blow my mind is that like, can you even imagine that there is this one piece of textile which is made nowhere else in the world but in India, in one small tiny little village, and they are the only people who are custodians of the know-how of how to make that very textile. So this fact just blows my mind every time, because there is so much of variety already in India. One,
Right,
that every nook and corner you go in this country, you will find some new sort of handicraft, or you'll find a new textile, a new way of doing the same textile also.
right,
So this kind of variety that we have in our country, and the fact that there are only, like, say, 4 people, 5 people who actually have that Indian traditional knowledge stored in their family,
right.
I think this excites me every day to discover more. And I think that's the dream. Like, you get as many artisans as possible on board and connect them to as many global markets as possible. And I feel one lifetime is not enough for this. So this is something that motivates me, and this is something that excites me the most about my job. Yeah, I
Amazing.
don't even consider it as a job anymore. Yeah.
That's really amazing. I mean, yeah, of course, then it's no longer a job per se in the true or the traditional sense of the term. It's more like, as you mentioned, a passion project, which kind of it is pretty exciting. When you're just talking about it, I can really feel the passion and the excitement even in your voice. So
Right.
that's pretty interesting and very, very exciting for sure. Um, Moving on to some not so exciting stuff. And since everyone's like the talk of the town, everybody's talking about it these days, I thought I'd also ask you, how has the pandemic really impacted the work of the Indian Craft Hunt and the collaborations that you might have, let's say, with artisans or with customers, across the country?
One thing that I'd want to probably tell everyone who's listening is that the handicraft and the handloom sector is a highly unorganized sector, because every cluster, every village, there are so many. And in spite of probably having a handloom data after, say, 11 years, there is still a lot of data that is not up to the mark, or many weavers are not, they have not been included in that census. So in compared to a farming sector, wherein things are much more organized, where there have been a lot of government interventions, where the government is purchasing stuff directly from the farmers, so they're assured of a basic income at least. Now the same thing is not applied for weavers or for handicraft artisans, in spite of the fact after agriculture, it is the handloom sector that provides employment to most of the people in India, indirectly or directly. In spite of that, the kind of interventions that the government can do in this is relatively lesser. Of course, it is improved over time, but there is so much more that could be done. There are a lot of people who are not reached. So in that way, during the COVID sector, one, because they are unorganized, so how do you reach them? So there are no systems in place. Now that there are no systems in place, it's even more difficult to reach out to such people.
Right.
And then like, they have a lot of or exhibitions. Now that was the easiest way to make sales. So during COVID, when everything is shut, how do you even exhibit your goods? Or even if they are giving it to like a second person or third person to exhibit, all of these things are shut. And clothes is the last thing that comes into your mind when you're in the between of a pandemic. So and most of these weavers, this is their only profession. So, of course, it has been a very tough time on Indian handlooms and handicraft artisans, because one, they already face a huge competition from the pavilion sector, plus the fact that no one really thinks of clothes during a pandemic, or fabric or handicraft. These are additional items. So in that way, yes. And personally, for the Indian craft hunt, the fact that we travel to these people and we try to tell people the process behind what they are buying and why they are buying, so that obviously stopped during the pandemic. So that in that way, yes, these were the things that really affected us during the pandemic per se.
Right. I think those are very interesting points to note. COVID or no COVID, there are always challenges, of course, everywhere. But
Right.
there have been challenges specifically which have been kind of, let's say, enhanced during the COVID period because of the reasons that there are no, like you mentioned about it, not being organized, market linkage, missing kind of, in a more structured way. So that kind of exacerbates the whole all the challenges out there. Of course, you did touch upon this, but are there any other challenges that you might want to highlight, when collaborating with clients as well as artisans, because you sit somewhere between the two?
Right. So yes, of course, orders dropped down on our online platforms like say Etsy and stuff like that, which helped us reach international markets.
Right,
Since courier services were shut, and and that was also another problem with even the artisans actually, which I forget to mention, the fact that they are dependent on raw material from different places. They are not so even to make products sometimes the raw material itself is stuck in some other place. They can't even produce goods because logistics was a problem. So same again, so if you get orders and stuff like that, one, the artisan might or might not have something in stock, and second, courier services to reach to ensure that delivery happens on time or whatever.
right,
But one thing that really saved us was the sentiment of vocal for local, which Modi ji spoke about, and which also the India first sentiment, which became really strong during the COVID times. So a lot of people personally reached out to us and said that, hey, we're doing gifting or we're doing something that way, but we want to gift something from the Indian sector and we want to make an attempt to buy Indian. How do we go about it?
right,
So that was a very pleasant change, because generally these people would have probably not thought like that and they would have probably gone and just purchased something off the market. But people became very sensitive to the idea of putting India first, and very sensitive to the concept of vocal for local. So people really made an attempt to because they knew the kind of work we are doing. So they figured that we are in touch with people who are in the villages and who could probably require help. So people did make an attempt to, replace what they would have otherwise purchased from a market. They wanted to purchase it from Indian villages. So we did make business during the lockdown because I think of this sentiment that ran really high in amongst people.
right, right. That's a very interesting point to note, actually.
Right.
Um, on another note, any advice that you would like to give any of our listeners, particularly who may want to kind of explore this sector?
Yes. So I think there is no other way other than going and getting your hands dirty. Like you have to. So you cannot sit in a, like in a place in Bombay and say that these people are facing problems and I'm going to do something about it, because those solutions that you come up with will be the solutions that you feel that they are going through in that that small little box of yours. So you have to go down to the field, you have to understand their perspective, and then you can come up with solutions. You can't sit and do this, you can't come up with remote solutions without actually going on the ground and really understanding what they're going through, or what are their day-to-day small challenges. We look at it in a bigger perspective, sitting in say offices, saying that hey, market linkages, and I'll find the market linkages, but they are facing 100 issues which might not even be related to the market. They could be facing small issues such as we don't know what costing to come up with, right? When you go there, you will figure it out like, Are, we don't know that this product is available in this thing, so how do we, how do we make this better? Or simple things like we do not, like, say for example, they want to try something new, they might not have network, they might not have access to good internet in that area to see, to look up resources for themselves.
Right,
So small things like that, where we can bridge the gap, because we are in the position to bridge gaps. And to bridge gaps, you will have to go right there, stay with them, and you'll have to figure those wherever you can fill in. So it's never what we think till we actually go meet them. So I think the only advice I would give anyone who wants to get into the sector is you have to get your hands dirty. There is no other way. And you can't come up with solutions sitting in a faraway place from them. You have to go down to them.
Absolutely, absolutely, very well said. And that's probably why you also recently went down to interior Maharashtra where they were not wearing masks. When you told me
Right.
about it, I was like, what? But then, of course, when you're living in such an interior place, the idea of the entire, this pandemic is completely different,
Right.
That's pretty interesting. So great. Lastly, of course, please do share all your social media handles so that our wonderful listeners can reach out to you and see all the stuff that you guys do.
Right. So right now we are working on our website. However, the Indian Craft Hunt is very active on Instagram, and the handle is called the Indian Craft Hunt, and it has an underscore. So do follow our page, and we'll keep you updated about everything from there. We come up with really amazing, stories, and we have really nice videos out there. So stay connected.
Absolutely, guys. Please do follow the Indian Craft Hunt underscore on Instagram. They are so super active, and you will find some really mind blowing facts about the handloom and handicraft sector in India. Amazing. Thanks a lot, Malvika, for your time. Of course, all the work that the Indian Craft Hunt does is an inspiration to many, including us at Next Mile Co. And I'm certain that, this conversation will go a long way in motivating many other people to also explore the handicrafts and handloom space and empowering artisans in India. Thanks so much again. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Zitan. Thank you, Zitan, for giving us this opportunity. This is our first podcast, and it really feels nice to, live the moment because we never really got time to analyze this entire journey. And so it was really nice. So thank you for the opportunity.
Amazing, amazing. Grateful as always. Thanks a lot, Malvika. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. And if you liked this podcast, feel free to share it in your network. My one takeaway from this episode was that a thorough understanding of ground realities forms the foundation of developing relevant solutions. You simply cannot sit at one place and expect to find all the right answers in your entrepreneurial journey. I would love to hear your key takeaway from today. Do share it with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You will find me there on @Zitan Munshi. That's @ZitinMunshi. Also, do get in touch with us at Next Mile Co. if you want to explore how your business can dial up the sustainability quotient profitably. You will find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram on @NextMileCo. That's @NextMileCo. Until next time.